Well, welcome. I'm so pleased to have you and that you've taken this time of the day to relax with us. That's great. And it was my dream, really, that some people might be, a little shy sometimes to present, but you all have such a wealth of information, so I want you all to be co-facilitators with me. So this was kind of my dream, that we'll do a little bit of an intro, and then we'll get into role-playing, and I have something kind of, I think, is a little creative for you to use, and then we can come up with these client types. You will role-play, but within your role-play, once it's done, then you can share how you use reality therapy in your work, and is there an approach that you might have that you can share with others. So that's really my intent of the afternoon, and we will finish at 5. Okay? Great. All right, so I'm going to ask you that music plays, of course, a big part in my presentations because there's been so much research done on what it does for the brain, and we just came from a mindfulness workshop, which was so lovely. Thanks, Anna. And so this is another way of doing cross-laterals, shifting energy in a very different way. So you know that you're tired, you're exhausted, and you come home on a Friday night, you're just horizontal. You don't want to hear anything, you don't want to talk to anybody, but a good friend phones you up. Well, suddenly, what is it? You've got the shower in, you've done the shower, you're dressing and you're singing. What happened? What did you do? You changed your state, which is another way that we talked about. Total behavior is completely different. You've decided to do something quite different. So, of course, if you're thinking and doing, of course, those back wheels are going to move along, okay? So I'd like to share music with you. So I have some questions, and you'll know what they relate to. So if you would please stand up, and I'll try to appeal to as many senses as we can. So the first question would be, if you had one person to accompany you on a trip around the world, who would that be and why? So as the music plays and you want to move about any which way you want, if you're a little stiff and you can't, that's okay too. Or if you've had an injury or a break, that's okay too. Just move around. And when the music stops, that's the signal to find the partner and share the answer to that question. Okay? So let's begin. I'm going to have my son help me, right? Share. If you don't have a partner, I will share. Okay, thank your partner by giving them a big high five and say things like, "You're marvelous. You're wonderful. You're amazing." Okay. Yes, here's the second question. We're going to have about 5. I wonder why 5 or 6, I wonder. So that's the routine. At the end, because I can feel or sense the lull, it means that it's time to high-five. And it's another way of energizing, is that I can say to you, and how many times has someone lately said, "You are amazing.
Thank you.
You are fantastic." So that's a wonderful way, of going then on to the next question. So here it's to describe your peaceful, quiet place where you go to find that silence and peace. So the music will help you find a new partner, and when the music stops, you can share. All right, please thank your partner. Tell them how wonderful they are. Now, this question, this is kind of an interesting one because people go back and think, oh, maybe it was in 1902. I don't know. Share the last time you did only what you wanted to do. I have to put in the only, don't I? So share the last time you did only what you wanted to do. So you have to think about that perhaps, huh? When you get caught up in others' agendas, maybe. It's easy for you. Well, that's great. So let's go find a new partner. Music. Okay, so when was the last time you did only what you wanted to do?
When I went to my car show.
Your car show. Oh, wow, fabulous. I can tell. I see the energy, right?
Yeah. I got my little car and I take it to the car show. That's what I want to do.
And what is the car? What make is it?
It's an MGB.
Okay, great. Well, I'm not a lot into cars, although I appreciate them. And I know people who do go to car shows, but in the States, actually. And that's great.
But being retired, I get to go quite often.
I think for me, doing what I want to do, I do that quite a bit because I can set my own agenda by training and writing and just make time for it. So I've been very appreciative of that aspect of my life, that pretty well I always did what I loved and I just carried on with it. So,
being retired, I get,
Yeah, that's just a wonderful free feeling, isn't it, to just do what you want. So where was your last show?
It was last Friday at a restaurant in Los Angeles, Bob's Before.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know that. Yeah. Good. Well, you're fantastic for sure. Thank you so much for sharing. All right. Thank your partner. Tell them they're awesome. They're great. Thank your partner. I know. Nobody wants to stop, and I interrupt. I know. So this one, I know that one success we can all share today is that we showed up. We showed up. So, but find a new partner and tell your partner about a success that you recently enjoyed. All right, I'll play the music. When the music stops, find a new person and a success that you enjoyed recently. If you can't think of recently, it doesn't have to be, You want it peppier, I think, eh? All right, a new person. right, thank your partner. Okay. Just a couple more, not much. Not too many, just this and one last one, and that's it. Share with your partner, you have to find a new partner, but the last time you initiated a belly laugh. If you didn't, and you know it's so long ago, maybe the last time you just had a good laugh. Okay? So find a new partner, and it's the last time you can recall that you either initiated, you know, or you're laughing so hard you almost fall off the chair, or the tears come down your eye. He says, I can't remember that. It's all right, you'll listen to someone else share theirs, right? All right, find a new partner, please. And the music stops. New person. All right, thank your partners. Thank you. One last question. Find a new partner when the music stops, and just why are you here? Why are you here? Yeah, why are you here in this conference or workshop? Why are you at this workshop? If you don't know why you're at this workshop, just say conference, okay? This workshop and or this conference. Okay, let's dance back to our seats. You can dance back to your seats. To your seats. Come on, Peter, Peter. All right, you can sit down now.
Oh, you do? I just want to hug you.
Sit down.
This is perfect for this time. Nancy's adorable.
Yes. I wonder why those questions, but we know we have to tap into meet our needs through the quality world. So what you've done is you've shared your pictures. We all shared our pictures of how we have fun. Okay? All of the needs are there. So I don't know if it's controversial, but I do believe that you have to meet needs somehow. So I remember an instructor in the early days, do you remember Shelley? And she would say it's either up and clean or down and dirty. How's it going to be?
Up and clean and down.
Up and clean or down and dirty? How are you going to meet them? So when those of you in school systems or businesses, doesn't matter, you know those people or those children, even adults who meet their need for fun by belittling others and making fun, all of that. So I like to start almost all of my trainings, or even if it's just a day, by simply doing this and getting people to start understanding the relationship between quality world pictures and the needs. Now, many of you're going to get something special, and it's going to have the objectives, but I wanted to just share, and Dr. Wubbelding isn't here because I wanted him to know that I do read all his books. And so this is from an old book using, and Dr. Glasser wrote the introduction or the preface, that reality therapy is or may be seen as a philosophy of life which requires extensive application to nearly all aspects of human relationships or human endeavors. So the reason I was so delighted that we're here to celebrate the 50th anniversary is that the genius who was Dr. Glasser was able, over time, to introduce us to a set of, yes, procedures, but it's more than that. It's not a prescription, and I wanted to honor that. I know we do change the name and we say it's a questioning for success or success questions or questioning for quality, and that's fine. But let's remember that if we want to help people effect change in their life, as you were speaking about earlier, Anna, then they need to be using these questions in their own lives to say, what is it that I really want, and am I going in the direction that I should go? So it's not a quick fix. It's economical, and that's what's so wonderful about it. So that you're not in psychoanalysis like for 25 years, like poor Woody Allen, who hasn't found himself yet, right? I hope he never does. So in any case, so I wanted to share that. So that's why I'm so delighted to be able to do a workshop, even if they saved the best for last. It's wonderful. And those of you I've worked with or taught with, you know that I always like people, especially in training, to know why they're asking questions. And it's not a lockstep. Glasser used to come, someone would sit in front of him and he'd say, so what's your plan? You can start anywhere, but when you start taking your baby steps, you better know a little bit about more than, what do you want? What are you doing? Is it working? And so when you do that with the kids, and so the kids say, oh my God, I think the teachers had a workshop on the weekend. Right? Because someone punches another kid out and the teacher goes up and says, well, what did you want? And the kid says, I wanted him off my face. And she says, did it work? And he says, yeah. She says, gee, this doesn't work. So we're all practitioners pretty well here. So it's just to remind us, and this streamlining the process comes from Lynn Samita, who is a Canadian senior faculty from British Columbia. So she designed this as a kind of a funnel to narrow down to a plan. But she also has it another way, which is a mountain. So you have the relationship building at the base, and you get up the mountain and narrow up, to a plan. So I'm so used to doing it this way, but you can do it either way. But it's just to give you an idea that most of the time in the counseling, we're up here, and we think we're here. The mother comes in and she says, my son's going to understand this one. My son never cleans his room, right? And she says, my husband's not paying as much attention to me. And she goes on, and she has a little list. Well, we're not into the quality world at all yet, are we? We're still up here, because didn't Dr. Glasser say that we live most of our lives, in the perceived world is neutral a lot of times. It's just, yeah. So I just wanted to remind us of this so that the reason I'm going to ask all kinds of questions to build and maintain a strong client-patient or whatever it happens to be relationship, I have to ask questions. So some of you are therapists, some of you may not be, some are counselors or social workers, or just here to support your mother. Doesn't matter. But you're going to learn some very important questions that can change your life, really, so you can take charge of that life. So the reasons we ask different ways of what do you want, if I wave this magic wand, what would it look like? If you had one fantastic thing that you wanted in your life, what would it be? And you know how the kids say, I don't know. Well, if you did know, what is it? And they'll say, oh, I'd like to, they answer. So it's kind of cute for people to build up a repertoire. Present behavior, when we talk of present behavior, we're talking about reality therapy. Because we know, and why would we ask questions about what they're doing now? And I once worked with a friend, and it was so interesting because when Dr. Glasser says, what are you doing? And so she said, I didn't even know. She said, if you go to choice theory, you'll enjoy this one, Carly. If you go to choice theory on page 73, Dr. Glasser said that when you say, what are you doing, it means, what are you thinking at the same time. So I thought I had to check it out, but she was right. So then I have to, the evaluation, we're talking of self-evaluation. You've already seen and heard the quote, unhappy people, evaluate others. If you're happy, you just look in the mirror, right, and evaluate yourself. And then your plan, so you need to put your plan into action. Technically, yes, it's total behavior. Oh, I'm going to quit smoking. Oh, I'm going to go there. Well, you got to do it, right? Put it into your plan into action. So the types of clients that I'm going to offer you today, there was a little bit of a, did it come from Diane Gosson, or did it come from Lynn Samita, or did it come from Rick Puterin? I don't know, because in the early days, there were quite a few professional development days, but I've given Diane and actually Lynn the credit. So if you want to pass this around, everybody can have one. And these are really lovely, I think they're lovely wheels. It's kind of, I put them together. I didn't even swear once, I'm sorry. So when you turn the wheel, so these are client types. Of course there are more. And I've also have sheets around the room. So when you get into your role plays, you can choose in your group whichever client you want. Is there anybody here who has not been involved in role play? I know you've got 1, 2, 3, okay. You haven't either. So what I'm saying, you can do one of two things, or several things. If those of you who have had practice get into threes or threesomes, then those who have not, maybe you would sit in and see what it's like, to be a client, and maybe you'll play a client the second time around. Would that make sense to you? Right? Because, I don't expect you to do a role play if you haven't had the practice, but you'd be surprised. You're a person. You're a whole person, and you can be the client and probably be a good client too. Right. Okay? So the idea here is to support one another, to love one another in the sense of being happy that we are together and we are willing to collaborate today, and to be able to teach one another. So you can choose any which one, and then you can go to the back and there's about 4 or 5 others at the top part. Or you can make one up, doesn't matter, okay? So what we'll do is divide into threesomes, and if you don't need to be near a table, at least spread out so that people can see the threesomes. And then those who are not so sure about role play, you choose to go anywhere that you wish. Listen to the first one, then in the debriefing, share and say, well, what was the unique approach here? So I want you to have fun with it. Right? Just be playful with role play, because it's such a wonderful way to learn the concepts. Okay? Are there any questions you might? Okay, so those of you, would you please just, whatever, go with people don't know, it doesn't matter. But just make sure that it's apparent that you're a threesome.
Well, let's not use our own name, because then you get into the role. I think you're not going to answer at this beginning. But use a different name that I can remember.
Charlene.
Charlene. Well, I think I can remember that. Okay, hi Charlene.
Hi.
You came to see me today. How can I help you?
Well, I just got married and my mother-in-law is driving me crazy.
Okay. How long have you been married?
Only 6 months.
6 months. Okay. Would you tell me about the situation? What are some of the things that you're doing?
Well, I'm not doing anything. She's just driving me crazy. She comes over all the time, calls all the time.
I mean,
I'm not doing anything.
Have you tried anything?
Well, I asked my husband to tell her not to call all the time, not to come over all the time. Like, we need our space. We just got married.
Oh, okay. So what you want then is to have a little more privacy? Is that what you're saying with your husband?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, but just married, so yeah.
And so
What have you done? Have you seen him lately? Do you know where he is?
Yeah, I know where he is.
Okay. And is he happy? Does he appear to be happy? Did you talk with him about that?
Well, he thinks he is.
And but so what are some things? And so you've talked with him. What are some other things that you've done? To let him know. Does he
Stand
know?
outside and observe.
Does he know that you have this in your mind? Did you discuss that with him in your conversation? Does he know you want him back?
Yes.
You told him?
Yes.
You told him. And his response was?
What's the main thing you think you'd have to give up?
I have to give up
Kind of, I guess. I think
partying.
probably, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. They didn't even tell me we were
To be
coming.
married,
They
you
just kind of got
have
the
to
car, and then all of a sudden we're here. Like,
stay home and you have all these responsibilities.
you're not gonna tell anybody like what we talk about.
You know what we share is between the two of us. And is that important to you?
I don't want my dad to know things I might share. If I do decide to share, I don't want you to tell my dad. You won't tell my dad.
So being able to share and having confidence is really, confidentiality is really important to you.
Yes, very, very. So I can trust you, right?
Yeah. Can I trust you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's a good way to start, right? Yeah. So again, I want to thank you for just. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I do feel a little bit better because I just don't know how it works because I've never gone to a doctor like you. I don't know if you have to like tell people like you're going to run and tell my parents things that I've said, and then I'm going to be nervous about how they're going to react. They might punish me.
I mean, you could see the power of the questions in that even though you wanted to be difficult, you couldn't because it made sense to you to think about it that way.
Focus right back on the issue.
So, anybody
Where I would have gone, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to go out of the quality world where you guys were in the quality world. Because I'm like, I would have asked like, what currently is going on for you? What kind of conversations have you already had? Like,
Oh, that's a good question. Ask her that.
Yeah, I
Ask
think
her
I
that.
kind of.
Let's do it. Let's go back in the role play. and have
We
her
can go
ask.
to past
That's
successes.
that's a nice question.
What kind of conversations have you had with your fiance?
You know that one of their needs or several of their needs aren't being met, and they kind of become an emergency. And it's like when you just saw somebody get hit by a car, they're an emergency, and you go out there, and even if it's just a skinned knee or something, you want to put a Band-Aid on it. And that's what you're doing. If you would take her to lunch and go to the yarn shop, you know, that's like putting a Band-Aid. This is not a guarantee that it's going to get her off your back permanently, but it might help.
All right, so this is a practice wheel in the sense of a creative way of doing role play. So we have reviewed the different types of clients, and as you move the inner wheel or the smaller wheel around, you have on the perimeter of the larger wheel the type of client. For example, this would be one client who is quite emotional, and this is a 6-year-old crying most of the time. So that would be your client, and then it leaves the imagination, of course, of the person who's playing the client to be true to that client who is able to play a 6-year-old, and also one who's emotional. If I slide this around, here's another type of client who has a want that's attainable. In other words, it's realistic. It's a 45-year-old person who wants a new job but is quite certain about the details of that job. And so you just slide it around and keep moving. And the goal is to kind of get your memory going, to get that creative juice going, the imagination. And then in your group, you can come up with different approaches that you have toward this type of client. And this is what I'll invite people to do with the sheets around the room, to come up and say, oh, you know, this was one way, a nice way of introducing, the client to understanding what they really wanted, the details of the quality world, what needs can they meet through their quality world pictures. So it also provides practice, but fun way. So the big payoff for learning, of course, Glasser said, is fun. So we are going to deepen our understanding that choice theory without reality therapy, to me, is like salt without pepper. That you learn new techniques and approaches to role play, and also to fine-tune our skills and to become collaborators and to share with one another our knowledge, because none of us is as smart as all of us together. So this is the goal of the workshop. Yeah, so what were the approaches that you saw you were trying to do, Carlene, that
What I
worked
was
here?
trying to do is get her to realize that she can't control her mother-in-law's behavior. She can only control her own.
Okay, so this is what type of client was she?
She was the daughter-in-law.
So fix him, fix her.
Oh, the fix him, fix her. So I think if you go to where you have the fix him, fix her, and just put control issue, who can you control? So that would be the approach to someone who wants someone else to change. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that perhaps you might add. Okay, would you do that, please? All right, thank you.
Well, it's not easy to get divorced, so you're gonna test this. You know, I
Okay,
don't want him
so-
to take me for granted. That's why I'm not gonna tell my dad. Like, if he thinks I'm stuck with him, he could take me for granted, and I could lose all my freedom. So, you know, I guess that was kind of my fear. Because he's great now, but I just wonder if he'll change, like after we get married.
Do you think you'll change after you get married?
No, I don't think I'll change. I just worry he'll change. Just start telling him what to do.
So can you tell me the client type you're working with?
The 35-year-old engaged woman
This box.
I want to get married, or I'm engaged,
Oh,
but
so-
I'm afraid of losing my freedom.
Okay, so when you say I want to this, but, and you have the behaviors, right? So what is the approach, or what was your lead in here? What do you think that is the approach to this type of client? What would we check? Well, I'm just thinking of a technique that would lead us into this type of client, because she knows what she wants, right? You say you want this, but you have the behavior, so what's going on between the picture she has and her behaviors and also her needs?
We identified that she was in a conflict
All right.
freedom and
Okay.
security.
All right, so therefore, what would be the approach? Maybe one of the techniques might be that we can collapse the conflict. Is it possible for you to have a bit of the freedom, or some of the freedom that you want, but also have that relationship within the marriage?
They went there already,
Did you?
but we just
Okay,
kind of...
so
She explored that.
you did. So that's what I'm saying. So that's a technique or an approach. So that's one of them, the reducing of the conflict in this situation. And so that could be one that you would list under that client. Was there another entry point or something that was that you could see an energy shift, I'd say, in the client?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Exploration of her assumption
Great.
was a turning point for her when she realized that a lot of the problem was caused by assumptions that might be faulty.
So that's the second. See what we're getting at, Peter? So then you could invite the group to maybe 2 bullet points underneath that type of client, so that at the end of the session, this works very well in both practica as well as in the standard training, so that they can get to understand what's at play. And if you have a third or a fourth, I'm sure you have other techniques that you use. So if you can put a name to them.
All right. So one of the things we might have done then, we might have just ended the role play. Because we did resolve it.
Yeah, you see, the idea, and I didn't, that is my own, I did not say let's solve, because usually I always say, look, we're not looking for the solution now, we're not going to the very end, because you can't do it. We only want a little snapshot of like 10 minutes.
But sometimes it does happen, and it just happens to happen.
It's it's not a bad thing, but I did not remember to say that, to say don't worry about the ending. It's just what's important here is to learn different techniques with different types of clients. Like when we have a fix him, fix her, or I want my mother-in-law to change. Well, we know it's a whole, what we call the control issue. Who can you control? So that as they move through training, people get to understand when they get a certain type of client, they've done it enough to say, oh, right away. Because if you don't get that control issue off the table, you're going to just go in circles. Okay? All right, so thank you. Good. Great. type?
but I wonder.
So this was an unattainable want, was
Yes,
it?
it was.
Yeah. So what would you come up with as a group? What would the main approach be to an unattainable want?
I think her approach she did take, which I thought was excellent, was to find something else in her quality world that was obtainable.
Great. Because sometimes, if a client says, I want my husband back, or I want my spouse or someone, well, that's impossible. So what it's great, Marty. So what you did was you decided, well, they have needs, so we can help them put new pictures in.
Yeah, and the client had already come to the determination that it was impossible.
Right.
And it was they did not have the client say, well, you're crazy, you're going after something impossible.
No, we won't say that because
She was very open to the fact that I was stuck, wanting what was not attainable.
Right. So we're not going to say, oh, no. But often what happens is that, if I have someone close to me pass, I know that person can't come back, but I might just need help in clarifying, well, what did I do to have fun when my husband was alive, for example? Do you have friends that you can still go to the movies with? And, it's not quite the same, but it's great. So that's what I meant by what are some of the bullet points that you would add to that type of client that could help others? So I just find it a useful tool for role play, whether you're doing practica or, you're in training to certification or at faculty level too. So it's kind of a neat way, I think, to introduce client types instead of just having them listed. Anyway, that's just my...
Yeah, it's very creative,
isn't it?
Yeah. We enjoyed it.
Good. So are you ready for another one? I think we have time for another. One more? Sure. Okay.
Sure, so do we want to switch roles this time?
Yeah, I'd say switch roles. Are you gaining some insight, Nancy?
I'm enjoying this observation.
Yes, well, the thing is you were asking, what is it we do? So this is one way through reviewing different client types or situations or scenarios, and we help people build up their expertise in asking questions. And
we trust the process. Once you're in the process, just ask the questions and really become listening and connect with that client. Because that's really what most of us want. We need to connect, right? And she was feeling very lonely and stuff.
Now, sometimes another technique, and I don't know if I shared this before in trainings, but if it's a person who's very emotional, or it evokes an emotion, for example, of a lost one, what we can do too at the end of the session, because we're not really doing therapy here, it's education, is that you can shake off the client. And I know that in Australia they do it by asking 3 questions. The first one is, tell me, well, this is it. Name 3 ways you're not this client. Tell me 3 things about yourself so that you're not this client. So what would you tell me then? Because you did play the client, right, Mona?
I did play the client.
Okay. So
I have been married faithfully for 48 years.
Okay. Your husband will be happy to see the tape.
3 things.
Yes.
Okay. I have pets. That even if there is that disconnect, or if there's not that, they just make up a void that love and belonging.
Right.
And then I am actively engaged in the community at all times.
Okay, so you see that way, you'll notice the energy, the smile, because when you get into the role and we say try to be true to the role, then as we say, if we're going to be expressing the loss and separation, we're going to have those feelings, the physiology. So this is just another aspect to learn.
Good. I haven't heard that before. That's really
Yeah, so thank you.
And did you say that's from Australia?
That's where I learned it,
Okay.
from Australia, because that's
But
just
whoever played the client
yeah,
says 3
3
things why
things
I'm not
how
that
they're
client.
not that client.
So you're going to take that on.
and shake it
That
off.
is
So it's another way of shaking it off, you know, and other people, they'll get them to stand and say it, so that you're changing the state from seating, you know, from being seated to, yeah. So that's an important aspect. Okay, thank you. So what type of client were you?
13-year-old boy who doesn't know why he's at the session.
Oh, I see, okay. So do you have, can you think of what approach you might have taken, Anna, that could be shared with others in the group when they come up against this type of client?
Well, I think that we developed a relationship.
We did.
Do you think?
We did. It was very nice. What did you think as an observer?
No, I did. You just kind of
Right.
had
Well,
that.
you had to go to a deeper
comment.
level too. Like, you know, like he thought he was coming here for one thing, he didn't really know why he was here, and then the deeper problems.
Is this where they made me come? Was it?
Yeah, they made me come.
Yes, they would come, and so then really the deeper,
I'm not going to tell you.
deeper problem was the relationship with his parents, and why he came is causing the strife with his parents.
So, you know, you're absolutely right, you know, so that the better the relationship,
Yeah.
he can start to trust you.
Right.
Because all, you know, if they said, well, they made me come, we wonder what that kind of relationship he's had with adults, probably doesn't trust anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's why I
yeah.
said, how do I know you're not going to go tell people?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
and we
like-
really got that clear.
Yeah.
Now,
really quick because
another thing I explained, so if it's not that, I guess it's more when we have a very emotional client or one who has experienced loss and, you know, wants something that can't be attained. So if we can ask you 3 ways to tell us that you're not this client,
I've been working
what
this
would you
job
say?
for quite a few years.
If she were to ask me, say
Yeah.
3 ways that
That
I
you're
am
not this
this
client,
client.
this boy or whatever, or woman, whatever.
Put this in a way
I was around 20.
So
I'm answering his
it's because you see, because we understand so you're sitting there and you're playing it as true as you can. So we are saying
Being here this long, I
words.
think I really know the job.
Okay? So we're experiencing the feelings, the emotions, and the physiology. So this is one way to shake the client up.
My bachelor's or master's
Oh, okay.
Do you see what
You
I'm
mean
saying?
as I come out of the role play?
As you come out
Oh,
of the
so me, I see. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So I am not this client. Yes. I don't text all day long.
Okay? And you're not 6 years old.
And I'm, well, not like 13 years old. And, I respect my parents if they don't like me. You know, and,
But you understand where I'm
yes,
coming
you're
from.
shaking
So
it off.
you're just shaking it off, and that's very
And it
important.
is important. I remember,
It is.
and Dr. Glass used to say that too, and especially since, and I know you know this, that I am playing a real person. You know, even though I've changed the names. You know, this is a real person I have in mind. I didn't just totally make it up. It's somebody that exists. So it is important to remove yourself, whether you make them up or not. But because it's a person that I have a relationship with, for real, in real life, it is important to remove yourself.
It could be in anything. It could be in
Great.
underwater basketball.
So this is one way of doing practica. It's a safe way, I find, because people have something to hold in their hand, and you know they'll say, well, instead of seeing it on a list, I've often had it on a list, and I think I haven't read where would you go in. But this way, I think there's more sharing.
I didn't even see the back.
Oh yeah, and the back there's some
Nice. I know I didn't see the back.
there's some you know, there's a little bit about me, but it's also other fiber, because I thought these are kind of, well, they're not always simple to play, but you know, I didn't want to get too wordy.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
I
good.
only have a limited, so it's just fun. It's fun with role play, isn't it?
We used to do role plays a lot. We haven't done them in a long time. At our retreats, we've done role plays, and it's just nice because it's practice that people see it, and
Yeah.
you know, it
But we
really
need to remember that we always have the right to say no,
Yes.
and also because and if it's too close to us, like if you're playing a client who has to place the parent, and this is really happening in your life, you just say no. And I do something a little different. I always ask the person playing the, you know, what we'll call her the interviewer or counselor for a counseling group, to choose the client. I don't go to the client because you know why? Because it's not that they're doing it on purpose, but often it's like stump the client. You know, counselor. So this way, I respect you because you know what you need to practice, and then I say then, well, can you play it?
Yeah.
And if you can, fine. If not, fine. So that's just a little twist.
The next one that you would
Absolutely. So if she said, look, you know, she said, you know, like if someone says, you know, play a convict, you know, you're on probation and you're coming to see me, and I say, you know what, I don't have a clue.
That's not a guarantee.
So you say, well, Anna, can you think of another one?
Yeah.
That
You
you
might
might,
go,
because we're talking of education here, and we
Yes.
want you to build your skills. It's not about, we're all going to bump up because we learn from answering, from playing that role. But, so that's a little different.
But though you did beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though the first thing she
She's
said,
an expert,
I know,
yeah.
and even though the first thing she said, oh, it's always been a long time since I talked about middle school students. She looked like she had a little fear. Oh God.
Her eyes kind of glazed.
She took a deep breath.
But you did great.
I know what to do.
Yeah, you did great.
Oh, I love it.
So I'll give you about 3-4 minutes to just close, because it is getting to be 5-ish. I mean, I don't mind staying till 5:15, but I think it's a long day, right? So, you know, just take a few moments to review kind of techniques, something you've picked up that you didn't have before, and then we'll do a little bit of sharing, and then we'll finish. So, do you want to do a little discussion first, and then? Oh, she's got to get you finished. She's got to fix you, right? Oh, she's got to fix. So a couple more minutes. They're gonna fix. They're gonna fix Tom, and that's a big job. Well, thank you. Let's just hear from each group, just a highlight of your learning, because you know some of you. We talked about gratitude before, and I said it's no coincidence. You were meant to be here, and that's why you're here. And to be able to, in each group, we have really experienced people in the field, and you know, I think it's a privilege to have you, first of all, and then for us to learn from one another. So let's hear what you think you've learned, or maybe you didn't, I don't know. How about you, Mona? Do you want to start? Is that okay?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, just let's do a round robin on that.
Okay, well, I learned that this young lady here is just a sponge soaking up everything. Or at least I sensed that.
Yes.
And very engaged and very, very pleasant to have as a participant in this
Great.
little role play. And this Marty was definitely going for, I was kind of a difficult client. It was unattainable, but I wanted it to be attainable. And so she just went right to the heart of the problem, but I wasn't having any fun. And just kept insisting that I do something fun, but something I could do alone, but in company. It was, my problem was that my lover had jilted me and I wanted him back, and then he had married on top of that, and I wanted him back. And so she didn't even, empathize my heartache or anything. It's, what can you do that you would still be a part of a group, a part of community, because apart from community we are nothing. But yet she guided me in a way to find that rather than with one part. It's something you could do alone, but in company.
Great. Anyone else in the group? Was there something that you picked up that you didn't have before, or an insight, or a little bit of a twist on something that you knew?
It was kind of a reminder of always trusting the process, and I would just go back in that and remember that there's always a need there, that the client needs one or more, that they and the quality world picture what they are. And once you find that, then it's very easy to help them solve their dilemma.
Excellent, thank you.
Also, that you don't always solve the problem. You may have to shelve it for a week to be able to come back to it, but find a stationary place that is comfortable to shelve it.
Absolutely, yeah. And actually, what we're doing here is we're not teaching role play. We're really offering a vehicle to learn the concepts. So I remember, Linda Harshman, and many of us knew her well, and dear friend, that she said, she said, this is the best we have right now. A way to learn these concepts is by using role play scenarios.
And would you share with everyone your 3?
Yes, I think I did in each group,
okay.
especially if you have a client that's quite emotional, something that's very heavy, because we know then they're playing the client, they're trying to be true to the client, so they're saying these words, they're acting the part, and so the physiology and the emotions and feelings are there. So at the end, I can say, as an instructor, or you can ask the person in the group, whoever the observer is, to say, name 3 things about you, so that it shows us that you're not the client. So that kind of shakes off the client. And so we have actually quite an expert who just joined us.
Yes, yes.
We're just closing Lucy, so it'll just be a minute. Is there anything over here that you would like to share? Any kind of approach or insight?
Go ahead.
Anna?
It was just wonderful to be back in the process and building the relationship with a 13-year-old that didn't want to be there, and getting at a deeper level of what it was that he really wanted.
There's usually always something
Yeah,
deeper than the
Right,
current
of
issue
course.
of whatever it is.
And usually they don't trust any adult, so building that relationship quickly and make that connection is what you did.
She did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone did. What about this group here? Is there anything that you've picked up that you'd like to share?
Well, I just thought maybe, you guys wanted to share more of whatever, because.
Well, I thought Peter did a great replay. We did actually 2 different role plays. The one role play where actually both of us, we handed off the client, or the 35-year-old that's engaged but was afraid of losing freedom. And so we worked on that one a while, and actually it worked pretty fast. We already came to kind of a place where we realized that the client might have been making assumptions. And so we focus on past successes and
So I think that I had not really said, you don't need to bring it to the full conclusion, and so I did not say that at the beginning, so, you went ahead, but that's fine. So the idea and the whole purpose was to just, to say, well, what are some of the approaches to this type? Because there's just as many people we are in the room, we would do it differently, not maybe, we would do it all differently.
Yeah.
What about this group here? Or do you have something else, Peter?
I did. I was reminded, I haven't done role play in a while, and I was reminded how easy it is to get distracted by the problem and forget the reason that you're doing the role play to start with, which is to practice the process.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was just
Get caught up in the story.
right, exactly, and wanting to solve it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Having that be the goal as opposed to,
Well, and I was reminded again about how powerful it is, so that sometimes you get to the plan. You weren't trying to get to the plan, but in the power of the questions, you just sort of ended up there because they answered them and they went, oh. And so they were there.
It's great when, you see that energy shift, and usually it's there in the quality world picture, the detail, and you can see the eyes go up and they, wow. Over here.
There was a point where, he's a 13-year-old boy, and, he started talking about video games, and my gut went, talk to this kid about video games, and then my brain went, oh, I don't think that's what I'm supposed to do. And then I realized, because she was, going, that's exactly what I was supposed to be doing. Is I was supposed to be talking, because I'm building relationships, so I was supposed to be talking to him about what is, important to him.
That's great. And we had quite a mixed group, and I really thank those of you who are beginning perhaps the practicum, basic, so that, and a couple who perhaps have not done this role play or have done, well, maybe something like it. So to have participated and made the group, really, I think, more complete. So thank you for that. And I'm going to ask you to stand, please. And this is the last song that you can, we're going to dance. We're going to dance our way out or in or wherever. So come on, guys. Follow the lead. Yoo-hoo!
and it was perfect. I mean, for the last one on the last, and yet, very valuable.